The pop up, bitch, I'm back. Now I'ma run it up. Snooze on the kid that you dumb or what? You better go get your numbers up. Now throw me the oop. I gotta hire a Jerry Maguire. I'm tired of hearing it. Show me the loot. I had to listen. They told me to shoot. Like it or not, man, I told them the truth. I stay away from the things that be causing me trouble. Just out here enjoying the view. Seeing shit I never had. Boy, I used to be a bad boy. And now I'm in my bag. Boy, I knew. I don't do the rumors or the tabloids. I'll let you handle that noise. That shit doesn't last. No, it's true. Each time that I move, ayy, my free time ain't free time. It's peace signs if you snooze. I got crease lines in my shoes. Walk with me, you see what I do. Walk with me, you see what I mean. Show you how to see it right through. I said, excuse me, you don't understand where I'm at. I was all around the world, on span, across the map. I've been laying low and now it's time to pop up, bitch, I'm back. Now I'ma run it up. Snooze on the kid that you dumb or what? You better go get your numbers up. Really on God, getting paid for this shit while I drink on the job. They so desperate for some clicks to the links on they blog. Being real, man, it's nothing but exhausting. Come on, I said excuse me, please. Why they speak like they knew me? Right from the gate, I had all of it written. When they speak of grace, knowing they didn't include me. It took me a while, I weathered the storm. Bitch, why you hating? Get better informed. No room to slip when the pressure is on. You wasn't with it to move it along. I said excuse me, you don't understand where I'm at. I was all around the world, on span, across the map. I've been laying low and now it's time to pop up, bitch, I'm back. Now I'ma run it up. Snooze on the kid that you dumb or what? You better go get your numbers up.
Hop in the car, watch it go vroom, vroom. I told her mom that I blow soon, soon. Knew as a child, back in the womb. Oh, told her step back, I need my broom, vroom. Hop in the car, watch it go vroom. I'm in a whip, so I gotta zoom. They tryna talk, they not in the room. I've been so real, I'm dead to the tomb. They in the way, they gotta move. I got a gas, they running on fumes. Told them way back, it's something new. It's me or them, you gotta choose. I'm taking what's mine, I'm doing fine. Don't see the vision, they looking so blind. I hit my low, I don't got the time. Crossing my T's and he dotting those eyes. Don't take offense if I do not oblige. I can't relate but like none of these guys. They hit me once and I'm cutting the ties. I was so low but I'm back on the rise, it's real. Hop in the car, watch it go vroom, vroom. I told her mom that I blow soon, soon. Knew as a child, back in the womb. Oh, told her step back, I need my broom, vroom. Hop in the car, watch it go vroom. I'm hopping now I gotta go. I'm looking back, they not even close. I had a 4, now I need a ghost. I got a wave like I'm on the coast. Same ones are down and I dare the show. So way that I'm ballin', they think I'm a pro. I'm getting sick by the money I gross. They saying whoa, I told them all what this is. I told them all I don't miss. Said it's my time, look at this shit on my wrist. And when they shooting this breaks, I'm going in a new gig, gotta shift. I cannot stick to the script, I cannot wait. Watch how I get it and flip. It's just how I'm doing this shit and I'm gone. Just how I'm doing this shit and I'm gone. Hey, just how I'm doing this shit and I'm gone. Said I'm taking big shots, just stop where I'm driven, no pit stops. This hot, I ain't playing like a 6 spot. Pissed off, thought I told him this a chip shot. I ain't missing cause you know I'm taking big shots. Just stop where I'm driven, no pit stops. This hot, I ain't playing like a 6 spot. Pissed off, thought I told him this a chip shot. I ain't missing cause you know I'm taking big shots. They been trying to get me cheap like a thrift shop, but I told them it's my time, check the wristwatch. They been talking way before they even doing something. Whoa. If they wanna play, let's get a tip off. Ain't no silver lining, dawg, this some rose gold. Getting new money, I'm a old soul. Yeah, I get it bouncing like a pogo. Whoa. And I'm too cold like Frozone. And my chick elastic, girl. Told them we ain't in the fake and this ain't plastic, girl. Bought a new whip and cash, now my taxi thorough. Way I'm shooting like step with my passes, bro. The way I'm playing the field, I'm in a league of my own. And now they all in they fields, I got them all on my phone. But dog, I'm hitting the climb, I got no time on the low. Way I'm shooting is messy, the way I'm hitting the goals. I'm taking big shots, just stop. Where I'm driven, no pit stops. This hot, I ain't playing like a 6 spot. Pissed off, thought I told him this a chip shot. I ain't missing cause you know I'm taking big shots. Just stop where I'm driven, no pit stops. This hot, I ain't playing like a 6 spot. Pissed off, thought I told him this a chip shot. I ain't missing cause you know I'm taking big shots. I just left, but you know I'm coming back though. And you know I don't play by my rags though. Now go and turn it up to the max, whoa. Send a paper to me now like a fax, whoa. Got 2 phones ringing off the hook now. When I'm in the city, I get looks now. I was going bad, but I'm good now. Said I had to go and put my foot down. Told him I'ma get it and go. Even in the summer, man, they knowing I'm cold. I got a couple checks coming that I made out the flows. Might get a couple more popping if I do it some more. I gotta do it for real. Said I'm back in my bag. All my digits are climbing just like they all on a dash. And they tell me slow down, cause dog, I'm moving too fast. Might go and cop me a Tesla, cause dog, I still got a gas. Said I'm taking big shots. Just stop where I'm driven, no pit stops. This hot, I ain't playing like a 6 spot. Pissed off, thought I told him this a chip shot. I ain't missing cause you know I'm taking big shots. Just stop where I'm driven, no pit stops. This hot, I ain't playing like a 6 spot. Pissed off, thought I told him this a chip shot. I ain't missing cause you know I'm taking big shots. Just stop where I'm driven, no pit stops. This hot, I ain't playing like a 6 spot. Pissed off, thought I told him this a chip shot. I ain't missing cause you know I'm taking big shots. Just stop where I'm driven, no pit stops. This hot, I ain't playing like a 6 spot. Pissed off, thought I told him this a chip shot. I ain't missing cause you know I'm taking big shots.
Here we go, at the top of the class on a roll. And it's time to run it up, yeah you know. Maxed out, put the pedal to the floor. Ayy, on the road, here we go, here we go. Yeah, we winning by a landslide. Never see me coming on my landmine. Yeah, I ain't taking orders in command like. Yeah, you about to see me on demand like. You know on demand. If you ain't know, you about to understand. Yeah, I got the team by my side, right hand. Yeah, take it to a string, you ain't seen it like that. Yeah, and it's the dream, and we coming for the bag. Yeah, and we ain't ever going back now. Future expedited, now we on the fast track now. They won't lend a hand, now they see us on the map now. It's time to act out. Here we go, at the top of the class on a roll. And it's time to run it up, yeah you know. Maxed out, put the pedal to the floor. Ayy, on the road, here we go, yeah. At the top of the class on a roll. Ayy, and it's time to run it up, yeah you know. Yeah, maxed out, put the pedal to the floor. Yeah, on the road, here we go, here we go. Here we go, at the top of the class on a roll. And it's time to run it up, yeah you know. Maxed out, put the pedal to the floor. Ayy, on the roll, here we go, yeah. At the top of the class on a roll. Ayy, and it's time to run it up, yeah you know. Yeah, maxed out, put the pedal to the floor. Yeah, on the roll, here we go, here we go. Here we go. On the road, here we go, here we go.
What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Frankie Candles live stream. Bitcoin absolutely smashing into the 78, well, technically the $79,000 level, but tapping our $78,000 value area high, finally getting the massive fill of our macro volume profile. And now as we approach a major pivot on the chart, the question remains, are we going to break above the level and continue higher, or is it going to be a massive fake out for I don't know, 30K, 20K, whatever everyone is looking for. Are we going to see a massive, massive bull trap here for a massive drop to the downside? I'm going to cover everything with you guys. We're going to take a look at the high time frame levels, the money flow, market cipher B, as well as where I'm looking for the next targets to the upside and potential support on the way down. We'll even talk about some of those signs of weakness that, if lost, could weaken the argument that we will continue to the upside. Of course, if you guys saw my video on Saturday, we talked about the idea of potentially the bottom being in. However, we do not have any significant confirmation yet. We've seen the bull divs at the low, which is very nice for a big move to the upside. But of course, it is not lost on me that we are technically in a bear market. You got the 4-year cycle calling for this bear market being like nowhere near over. The 4-year cycle would say we're about 50% of the way through the bear market. We still have another massive drop to come in. Obviously, a valid thought process, but as we have seen massive confirmations at the low, if we start breaking some of this market structure, the argument for the continuation down gets weaker and weaker. So I'm going to give you guys my overall thought process of what I'm looking at. And yeah, if we do break above this level, what will I be looking for next? And yeah, shout out to the Mafia. Thank you guys for tuning in. I appreciate every single one of you guys. We got Lindo in the chat, Jesse, Dave Digital. What is going on, brother? H-Bar Moon Boy. Snow Dizzle said, mate, this song slaps time after time. Shout out to Snow Dizzle. We got Dremmer in the chat. What is up? Darren does things. He's doing things as he typically does. We got Jesse in the chat holding it down as our mods. We got Darren, Dave, and Jesse as our mods. Show them some love in the chat. Shout out to Off Grid Carnivore said, I'm looking for some short entries. Is that called a trap? Well, shout out to Off Grid. I'm going to try to break down what we're seeing inside of the price action right now. Of course, we have hit a major target, so we are approaching major resistance. And whatever we do here at this $82,000 previous high, guys, could be very, very pivotal for the long-term thought process on where we think Bitcoin is going next. So without further ado, shout out to everybody in the chat. Don't forget to smash that like button and subscribe to the channel. Shout out to Nature, says not 40K, but maybe just back in the 50s. Yeah, I'll talk about the bearish case as well. Obviously, I covered the bullish scenario on Saturday's video, as we've just seen a lot of what we've been looking for play out perfectly. But of course, guys, that is not a video to say, oh my God, bottom guaranteed in. Obviously, I've been around the block enough to know that you don't want to get overexcited on these pushes to the upside. So of course, we're going to play it level to level. And, you know, again, I'll talk about those confirmations that will increase the probability of the bottom being in, but not necessarily confirming. And I'll try to break down that as cleanly as I can. I know everybody just wants to know, is the bottom in? Are we going down to 30K? But of course, you know, if you've been in these cycles or just been trading these markets for any amount of time, you know, there is no 100% certainty in trading or investing or just looking at the charts in general. So I'll kind of give you guys, walk you through my thought process on that and what I look for to give the higher probability of the bottom being in or the higher probability of coming down to new lows. So yeah, without further ado, let's go ahead and jump on into the charts. Let's get into it. All right, so here we are on the Bitcoin chart here, guys. And of course, we've seen our macro volume profile fill. We've covered this, obviously, you know, I briefly went over this in the video on Saturday. Covered it. The bullish confirmations we'll be looking at in June as the daily bullish divergence confirms, also giving us the weekly bullish divergence confirming, which obviously has been a bottom confirmation in the past. Now, of course, this is not a situation where I say just because we have a weekly bull div at the low, does not necessarily mean just because it happened here doesn't mean that this has to be the low of the bear market. But of course, this is a scenario we have been paying attention to way back in the day, right? We have come back down to retest the previous all-time high, which we have done in the past. I'm just going to rough this out, guys, because I don't have the Bitstamp chart open, so I don't know where exactly the high is. But it was like around $19,000, $20,000 from 2017. We come down, we retest, bullish divergences, dipping below the all-time high. And, you know, as we were continuing down into the bear market here, I talked about how this is going to be a major level I have to pay attention to, because if I put weekly bull divs into that same level, and it's not just the previous all-time high, it's things like the 300-week moving average, as well as all the significant horizontal support we had down there. And that makes me think, one thing, right? If we get down to that level, we see those weekly bull divs. Well, of course, I'm going to understand that that is a bullish confirmation. It's why we took the long at $58,000. I can pull it up in the Discord here. That has been our plan here for these months of sideways price action. Once we took the entry there at 58K, we start tapping on the value area low. We see that daily money flow coming up, indicating the trend would likely continue to the upside. All we had to do was pop above that value area low and POC, and it would be very likely not only a push to the value area high, but a very fast rip to the value area high, for the very simple reason of the fast move down. Let me pull up like a 4-hour here, or I'll pull up the daily, right? Fast move down very oftentimes leads to a fast move up. Couldn't have asked for that to play out any more perfect. And take this all-time high off. Couldn't have asked that to play out any more perfect. But at this point, right, we have been waiting through that gross sideways price action for so long to eventually see this fill in full. Finally, we are here. So we have to reassess the situation, right? Like, as we come up here, do we still see strength for a potential push above that 82K high, or are we going to get a lower high for another lower low, or just a significant correction? And that's kind of what I want to talk to you guys about today. So I'll start here on the higher time frames. Next major target to the upside, guys. And, of course, we have our daily money flow in the green, which was our major confirmation that we were looking for back here to anticipate that any pullbacks would be lackluster for higher lows and higher highs. Of course, looking to break that POC and see that fast fill of the volume profile. So, again, if this, then that. If this, then that. Here we are. If this, then that. So, of course, right, I am not, holding the long from the low, right? Not looking to FOMO into longs here, obviously. The only thing I can look for, right? What are we doing here based on the volume profiles? Well, we are technically deviating above our value area high. This is oftentimes where we look for shorts, right? Deviate above the high. This is looked at as cheap price action. And, of course, deviating below the low, especially with bullish confirmations, is going to be an interesting opportunity I'm interested in looking for longs. Obviously, I am still holding my long position here, or a portion of that long position, currently $13,187 in unrealized profit. Already have some profits locked in. But yeah, next major target here, guys. I will say overall, as always, I really prefer to take out the high. That would be very nice. We are rejecting a daily MPOC here. Let me pull that up. We have pushed into this daily MPOC with some bearish divergences on the medium time frames. You can see that on the 2-hour, even like the 4-hour, putting in higher highs into the key level of resistance, lower highs under momentum waves. So again, right, like, is this a place where I would be looking for a long position? Not necessarily, right? Doesn't mean we can't continue up from here. But, through the lens of my strategies and plans, obviously we're looking for longs down here. Like the setups in the Discord, 58K. We had one down here from 62K, and then we had the last one here on the POC. Right down here at about 62K as well before the eventual breakout. But other than that, right, like, I am not chasing longs up here, which is nice because I don't have to, as I am holding that $58,000 long. And I will say, guys, very nice push to the upside. A lot of strength, even throughout a lot of this price action. A lot of people like, oh my God, it's going down, it's going down, it's going down. And of course, we just look at it through the lens of the volume profile. Magnetic target is that value area high. Flip the low, POC's next. Flip the POC, value area highs next. Able to avoid most of the bad short positions throughout that entire move, just sticking to the plan and waiting for that major target to get hit. So for what it's worth, we are pushing into resistance. We do technically have some bearish divergences confirmed. We have the 2-hour bear div confirmed, higher highs, lower highs. 3-hour looking to print very soon, VWAP rolling over. This may be able to print a bearish divergence on the 3-hour, and then of course that 4-hour VWAP coming down as well, which will give you the 4-hour bear div. So you do have some confirmation here for a potential rejection. However, when we come up to some of the higher time frames, specifically looking at something like the 8-hour, this to me looks like we may be able to print a 8-hour bearish divergence, which would eventually call for a break of the high. And we do have a major level of resistance here, which does incorporate the $82,000 swing high from back here in May, which you all know is a major pivotal moment on the chart for Bitcoin. Because as I discussed in the Saturday video, breaking this high would finally give us, let me take off the daily MPOCs, right? Taking out this high, this is a huge decision moment for Bitcoin, right? Because if we come up here, of course, there's going to be opportunities for a massive fake out, right? And in the most bearish case, right, total fake out of the range high, massive dump down, we lose all our key levels of support, and then, maybe we see it go down into a new low. Of course, as of right now, this cannot be necessarily my base case with our high time frame money flow. Come on. Continuing into the green, this still has to give me the bias of higher lows and higher highs. There is a place where obviously this gets invalidated, and I will be looking for a massive drop to the downside. When it comes to trading, guys, like I said, there's no 100% certainties. So, of course, if we get up here, it's not once we break this level, that's it, all-time highs, right? That is not what that means. Of course, I'll show you back in 2022. You can, potentially two opportunities here. You either fake out the high, come down for a lackluster pullback, and then we bing bong around, and eventually we're able to break through it with nice volume and flip it into support. It is really the break and the retest that we have to pay attention to here, because once we flip this, we will be flipping our high time frame structure, right? Because right now we are still technically, if we dump from here, this is a lower high. High, low, lower high, lower low, lower high, lower low, potential lower high, potential lower low, right? We are still in a bear market technically. And we could still potentially put in a lower high. If we come up to this $82,000 level, right, it could still just be some kind of a fake out and a move back down. But even if we do get that, I still have to entertain bounces for higher lows and higher highs based on our money flow, right? Money flow, even on the weekly, right? We see this weekly money flow starting to come up towards that zero line. It's not crossing over just yet. But, once we start seeing this money flow cross over on the weekly, if we're above here, right, that's going to be a very, very good sign, in my opinion. And flipping this structure would increase the probabilities that the bottom could be in. Now, again, I have to be very careful when I say this. This is not me saying that the bottom is 100% guaranteed in. I wish there was a way for me to say that. All this does, breaking this structure, is increase the probabilities, right? I'm not going to say that it is impossible for Bitcoin to come down deeper into a bear market. Obviously, the 4-year cycle, if you have not seen the video that I put out on Saturday, go watch that. There is an argument for both cases here, right? 4-year cycle-wise, you would expect a bigger capitulation running into October. And I think that's, I like to validate those thoughts, right? Because it's not like people are crazy looking for that. We've seen these 4-year cycles repeat themselves time and time again. So it's not like you're looking for something that's impossible. I'll never tell you that's impossible. But the higher up we go, especially once you start breaking this structure, the lower the probability of continuing down it becomes. And we have already looked at this as a potential opportunity of a lackluster bear market. And I am not one of those people that will just say this time is different for no reason. But we talked about this before we even came down to the lows. I talked about those two opportunities for the bear market. Either it's going to look just like 2022 structurally. We come down, retest the all-time high. We get those bullish divergences on the weekly, which of course has been a bottom signal in the past. Once that money flow crosses green after those bull divs, the bottom is in. Kind of very similar to breaking the structure here back in 2022. We come up, and you guys can see here, right? You push, you cool off, you come back up, you sweep the high very slightly, you go for a very scary pullback, but at the end of the day, the bottom is indeed in, and then we get above with volume, push above that high, and then retrace, hold it, and then once we break into our upper bull market value area, that is where you can say, well, hey, now we're accepted back into upper value. Let's look for this entire range to fill, and then we can start cooking into the rest of the bull market. We are in a very similar situation here, and I would kind of compare this high to this high, right? You can see here with the fractal, right? Maybe you fake it out, come back down. $70,000 actually, funny enough, is going to be a major level. This is the previous all-time high. So, we still have some work to do here. This can still be very confusing. It could feel very bearish. But of course, if that money flow is continuing up, we have to understand that you can be looking for those higher lows and higher highs. Money flow indicates the overall trend. It's exactly how we were able to say to ourselves, well, hey, bull divs at the low, money flow comes up, we look for higher lows and higher highs. It's always going to indicate the overall trend. It does not call for the cool-offs. So be aware of that, right? So that's what I'm looking at high time frame. This sits at about $82,800. This is the next big level. And just before that, I'll go in a little bit more locally, but I did want to touch on the higher time frames here with you guys really quickly, just because, this is going to be a very, very big level. And what we do here could have a big, big indication of what we are going to see next. So there you go, right? I wish I could come up here and say, that's it, weekly bull div, bottoms in. It does look good as of right now, but just don't get it twisted. This can change, right? New information comes on the chart every day, week, minute, hour. So there is obviously invalidations for this to come down and make a new low, right? This is still not impossible. We have not broken the major structure, so be aware of that. And I am prepared for it, right? If we go down to make a new low, well, hey, I'll kind of be happy, right? Like, oh, cool, I could continue to accumulate. But I'm going to cover those exact levels that I'm looking at locally. But, I mean, it's a very nice pop to the upside here, and we are approaching very, 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 very important resistance. And last week, we were looking at our Fibonacci retracement when pulled from the, I'm sorry, not that high. This high here at about 82.8. There's your 786, right? If we can hold above this 786, guys, if you're looking for lower highs and lower lows from this level, right, that is the level that you would really need to reject, right? Golden pocket 786, high, low. Where are those lower highs and lower low? Where are those lower highs likely to form? Between the golden pocket and the 786, you can see we are attempting to flip this into support. So if we're able to sustainably hold above this, unless we break down below that 786 again, this would make me think lower high is invalidated. Let's go up and take out that $82,000, almost $83,000 high. So money flow, from a money flow perspective, 12-hour money flow continuing into the green, VWAP coming up, right? Again, 10-hour money flow about to print a green dot. If this goes to print a bearish divergence, meaning green dot prints, I can never unsee this. This looks like a bear div might want to print. That does mean that we would likely come up to break the highs once again. So overall, I would say things seem intact as of right now. I'll talk about the signs of weakness if we start breaking down where I'd expect a bigger pullback. And then, of course, I'll show you the invalidation of, if the bottom is not in, which is absolutely possible, especially at this moment before breaking this high, where are those invalidations, those signs of weakness where it's like, all right, this actually looks really bad. I'm no longer expecting a continuation up, and we can expect a new low on Bitcoin. And there's a few of them, but I'll show you the big ones today. So let's go down to the lower time frames. I do want to cover this. Pull up the macro volume profile, right? And again, just very along, just right on track here. So again, I'm not necessarily someone who's going to force shorts, longs after we get this massive push up. If you want to take scalps, it's totally fine, right? This is coming from someone who's holding longs from lower. But we are, as I mentioned, rejecting the daily MPOC, and just above us, we have another major level of resistance, right? So technically, bear divs into the daily MPOC. Could we get a pullback here? Sure. Right, and maybe we get accepted below the value area high. I'll talk about this key level in a second, but you're kind of fighting some stuff here, right? You have the bear divs into the MPOC. Technically, that's a confirmation above the value area high, but then I look at the 10-hour, I look at the 8-hour green dot, still has almost 2.5 hours left to print. This could potentially push us into a new high, and there is a very clear level here. Like I said, number one, taking out the high is a major key level to watch. That's the one I'm the most interested in. But when we pull up our horizontal levels, you can see we do have between about, call it 80,700 up to about 82,248, right? We have weekly MPOC, monthly MPOC, daily, weekly, and a daily horizontal up there as well. This is going to be a zone, so if we do continue up, this is the next big area to look at. Of course, at that point, you are very close to taking out the high. I prefer to take out the high. We have some short setups if we do take out the high here to look for. I'm not going to talk about the confirmations. Wouldn't be fair for the people who pay in the Discord, but we do have some short setups up here on the idea of faking out this high, right? Because when we look at this take the volume profiles off the chart, and even the key levels, right? You start to look at this just from a ranging perspective. You had your original range low down here. You have your absolute range high right about there. So when we come down here, right, you also look at this as a potential fake out of the range low, bullish divergences. Well, maybe we're on our way not only through the value area, but also up to the range high. Typically, the bigger swing trades are going to have the opportunity down there taking out the major highs and lows. So very naturally, I'm going to have an interest if we do take out that high with bearish confirmation. In the Discord, we'll be looking for those short positions. And for me personally, I am going to wait for the higher levels. Unless we come down and I see a sign of weakness, maybe I take an aggressive entry. But as of right now, even with these bearish divergences, you are technically fighting. It's very hard because you have the confirmations above the value area, but you also have the 8-hour green dot printing, right? Potential bearish divergence calling for another high. Same thing on the 10-hour if that green dot prints. And then just to add a little bit more confusion in there, daily red dot printing with your 80 and 90-minute money flow coming out. That is a bearish market cipher B 1/16 strategy, in which case if that 80 and 90, this is what I would look at for the move down if we are going to continue down from here in some kind of significant way. That 80 and 90-minute money flow crossover, if these cross over while we are still printing that, or about if we are printing the daily red dot at that time, that's your bearish market cipher B 1/16 strategy. And on those 80 and 90-minute money flow crossovers, you would anticipate a continuation of the downtrend, right? Come down, right? Maybe you bounce, lower high, lower low, lower high, lower low, if that money flow comes out. But again, you do have some mixed signals here. And when you're in an extremely aggressive move to the upside, it does get, you are kind of like standing in front of a freight train, right? So I don't mind if I miss the absolute top here. I would rather wait for that next confluent level to come in. Hopefully there's not as many mixed signals up there. So very simply put, next major level of resistance sits between 80,700 and call it 83K, 82.8 at that previous high. Where's my box? I deleted the box. So again, trading is a game of trapping, not a game of hunting. So if we get up here, we see those confirmations, maybe we get the fake out of the high, we will look for those short positions. And then at that point, right, let's say we get up there, we get the fake out, we come back down. Of course, this value area high is going to become very important at $77,526 because the hope there would be that you can stay outside of this value area, right? You don't want to get accepted back in here because then that opens up the bigger drop down to the POC and value area low. Now, we do have support that I'm going to talk about before we go all the way down here. But of course, once you break back into the value area, you do have to understand that, hey, you may have that magnetic rotation back down through that volume profile. And then, I'll just cover this right now really quickly. I don't know if we're going to get all the way back down here, but if we did, this would be an extremely, extremely important level to hold. And we even have big levels that we would want to hold before that. You could see the anchored VWAP here sitting at about 71,655. But just from looking at this, right, this 65 to $68,000 zone was the big level of resistance holding us back from the big move up. I would say if you get all the way back down here, right, who knows, right? You could potentially just continue to range around in here. But depending on what price action looks like, I don't know what money flow is going to look like if we get all the way back down here. If we did, if it looks like trash, right, we can probably have a little bit more of a bias earlier that we are going to potentially break down to new lows. But we're pretty far away from those invalidations, right? So right now I have to say that the trend is to the upside, at least on the medium time frames here. It's not still in a bearish market structure until you come up to the weekly, which we don't want to forget about. But again, right, you don't want to stand in front of a freight train here necessarily. So there you go. Next major zone to the upside, 80,700 to 82,783. Set your alert. Dude, why are my alerts getting deleted? Hang on one second. Oh, no. My alert is still there. I just can't see it. Okay. So there you go. If we do continue up, that is the biggest level of resistance to keep an eye on. Next major level, and again, not just a major level, like a potentially pivotal level for the long-term move on Bitcoin, right? And then on the way to the downside, I'm going to cover the biggest high time frame levels I would prefer to hold if we are going to see this strength continue. And then we'll jump down to the lower time frames. As I mentioned last week, when you have straight up movements like this, I really prefer to see some kind of consolidation, maybe create some kind of a volume profile. Then I can get a little bit better context of what's going on up here. But other than that, right, we are starting to form a little bit of a volume profile here. So I will cover the local levels with you, but just so you guys have a clear view of the high time frames, just like on the way to the upside, everybody knows if you watch the show, right, this is the level to break, very likely move to 77 to 78K. We're now above the value area. Maybe we push into the extra resistance. If we get those shorts, maybe the fake out of the high, losing this value area high would indicate that we can very likely see a bigger correction down. So there you go. Stay above the value area. As long as we stay on top of this value area high, I would say there is no reason to necessarily expect that big move down, right? Doesn't mean that we can't break it, but if we stay above it, right, I am just going to keep my eyes set on that higher target. It would not be until we lose the value area high, retest it in a bearish manner, that we can start looking to lower prices. So there you go. There's the medium time frames, or high time frames, I should say. This is like a big, big, big line in the sand. Let me pull my fib here from the low to the high currently. Yeah, I mean, you could see that value area low would be the golden pocket retracement. Definitely a level you would want to hold on the way down, but I don't want to get carried away looking at these super far away levels. So other than this kind of last line in the sand, of course, just perfectly in line with your volume profile theory, this anchored VWAP currently sitting at about 71,612. Let me pull up the bull market support band as well. Yeah, these are somewhat close to each other. You know, if we wind up coming down here, this bull market support band will likely come up to around this level, $71,000-ish. And this is obviously a very, very big level to watch. Because if I bring this back to 2022, we talked about this the past couple of weeks. Anytime you remain below this, right, obviously it's resistance, right? Resistance, you bearishly retest it, another big capitulation down. Eventually, we get the fast move up through the big drop, right? Fast move down equals oftentimes a fast move up. You push through the bull market support band. The retest of these levels are super important, right? Look at that hold on the bull market support band with, obviously, the bull divs confirmed at the low and money flow trending to the upside. This gives you the opportunity for higher lows and higher highs. And then eventually, bottoms in, continue up. It's going to be very similar if we get a major drop to the downside here, which, of course, I would never expect just a straight line up forever. There are going to be pullbacks. If we do get a pullback, wherever this bull market support band is, which I would guess is going to be somewhere around about $71,000-ish, that is going to be a major level to retest. If we hold it, well, hey, we could say to ourselves, again, if we fake out the high, you could see, like I said, a major pullback. But if we hold that, you know, again, if it's at like $71,000-ish, if we hold that and push back above it, I think it's a very, very, very good sign for Bitcoin. Now, of course, losing that bull market support band could very well just mean, hey, this is a huge fake out, right? At that point, what are you also playing around with? You are also playing around with very close to the POC of the range. You know, we start, maybe you wick into this, reclaim, send it back out. Once we start losing that bull market support band and we start losing these levels, well, yikes, right? Just looks like a massive fake out for new lows to come, which again is in the cards if you're looking for the 4-year cycle to play out. I just don't take the 4-year cycle as gospel. The timing, the percentages, anything, whether it's the 4-year cycle, news, whatever it is, I am never just going to take that at face value and ignore the bullish confirmations, right? I always talk about at the highs and the lows. People are always going to call for higher. People are always going to call for lower. It happens every single time. 100K here, 8K here, 150K here, 30K here, which who knows? Maybe that still comes into play. There's no saying that's impossible. But I would say personally, right, anytime I come down and I see these massive confirmations, I am not going to ignore them, right? They are telling me what the market is doing. Sure, and let's say this is a massive fake out for a new low to come. I am never going to regret viewing this as a bullish signal and listening to the charts, right? Because yes, even if we are going to still go down to 30K, right? Again, not my base case as of right now. That will change. If I see a change on the charts, I will change the bias, right? This is not, I am never going to come up here to try to predict, right? Like, oh my God, the bottom's in. There's no way we could go lower, right? I'm all just talking about what the charts are saying, right? So when we come down and see this weekly bullish divergence, like, sure, maybe you go back down to 30K, but that weekly bull div is very, very, very likely to give you some kind of major push to the upside, which is why we were looking for that in the premium Discord. And obviously, took the long position, right? It doesn't matter. Like, it doesn't mean you have to capitulate to 30K from here, right? And that's why I always say, you know, the 4-year cycle may be able to tell you what the price has done in the past, right? But the market is telling me what is going on right now. And that's how we were able to call this big move up to $78,000. Doesn't mean you can't capitulate back down to new lows. You know, once we start breaking the structure, of course, the probabilities start getting higher, right? Again, I'll draw it a little more realistically maybe, right? The probabilities get higher and higher that the stronger the bull case becomes once you start flipping that structure. So also got your 4-day money flow looking across into the green here. So that's high time frame money flow. We've spent a lot of time in the red. Maybe it's time to start spending some time in the green. And that's why I say, even if we fake out that high and start pulling back, I have to entertain the idea of higher lows and higher highs. If we don't get the setups, we don't get the confirmations, we won't take the trades. And of course, from a long-term perspective, my plan has remained the same, right? If the bottom is in, I'm exposed, right? If we come back down, I will continue do dollar cost average in with my weighted dollar cost strategy. So there you go. Let me jump down. I do want to jump down. I'm going to jump into chat real quick, and then we will jump into the lower time frames, and I'll cover, cover some of the major key levels we have inside here, right? Because like inside of this, just basically vertical send to the upside, there's not a lot of profiles I can pull. It's just kind of an explosive move where we enjoy the longs from lower, right? I'd hate to be in a situation either trying to catch shorts here or trying to FOMO into longs. It's not a situation I like to get in when everybody is scared and then just enjoy that move up, even if we have to wait 45 days for it to finally happen. Patience pays more often than not. So let me jump into chat here real quick. Shout out to Suncoast Goat, said these goats are bullish. Shout out to Suncoast, who I think we confirmed is an actual goat dealer, which is insane. I wish I had the facilities. I wish I had the facilities for a goat. Shout out to Jungle Boy, said if I short, it goes up. If I go long, price drops. Shout out to Jungle Boy. What am I doing wrong? Shout out to Jungle Boy. Listen, bro, I think everybody has felt like that at some point. I know I sure have. It's all right, man. Don't try not to let it get to your head. It's really hard for me to pinpoint exactly what you might be doing wrong because I don't know exactly what you're doing. But it could be a mix of things, man. If you want to drop a chat in there, let me know, your last short and long that didn't play out. I could try to dissect it for you. Looks like we're rejecting the all-time high anchored VWAP. We'll need to flip that for medium time frame bear divs. Shout out to V-Troll. I know what you're talking about. Somebody pointed this out on the live stream the other day. Actually, on the Bybit chart, we have hit the all-time high anchored VWAP, right? Which at the end of the day is very similar. And this is why people always tell me, or people always ask me, what if if I pull my range to current price action, is that messing me up? Do I have to pull it to the previous value? And there really is no right or wrong answer. I actually have this pulled from when whoever mentioned it on the live stream on Friday. We are tapping this. Now, this is pretty different than the all-time high anchored VWAP on the USD chart, which currently sits, at about 89,000. So at the end of the day, I would take both of these into consideration. But when we look at the USDT chart anchored VWAP, of course, that is resistance, but it is also it's incorporated with the major resistance that we have here, right? Like, of course, if you flip this high, right, and again, whether it's a fake out and then you come and flip it, or if we just, explode above it and then flip it, these are essentially the same level. I'd really say it's between about $80,000 and $83,000. So yeah, it'd be very nice to flip that. Monthly green dot printing, 4-hour div might get run over. Shout out to Ligmawick, one of the best names in the game. I talked about this on the video on Saturday, and we've covered it in the live streams as well. When I talk about, again, Saturday's video was really about comparing the bullish case and the bearish case, right? Like, we have a lot of the technical confirmation saying that it's a high probability that the bottom could be in. However, there is also a big elephant in the room. I kept saying that in the video, right? The elephant in the room is that the 4-year cycle is not in line here, right? Back in 2022, we had the bullish confirmations such as, right, just to run through them very quickly, weekly bullish divergence, 2-week money flow being in the red, which had indicated that the bottom was already in. Weekly bullish divergences at the low. We also had the monthly green dot, which literally has a 100% hit rate. Doesn't mean it's going to continue to have a 100% hit rate, but there's monthly green dot number 1, number 2, number 3, right? Bottom is in, bottom is in, bottom is in. There's our monthly green dot printing. It's interesting. Weekly bull divs, 2-week bull divs, 2-week money flow in the red, monthly green dot, all big technical bottom confirmations. But I said to the premium Discord earlier today, I think one of my biggest edges or advantages I have when I look at the charts is the fact that I can hold 2 beliefs at one time, right? Most new people just want to know, tell me the bottom is in so I can just buy, right? But unfortunately, the market doesn't move like that. That's not how things work. So when we see all these technical bottom confirmations, I can still hold the belief of, well, interesting. The 4-year cycle is calling for an additional 50% correction, at least into October. And again, I would say if you are looking at that, you're not crazy, right? That is a valid thought process, and I totally keep that in mind, right? Until we really start to see some strength come in here, there is a possibility that the 4-year cycle can still play out. We are not out of the woods just yet. But we like to call for those bullish confirmations while they're happening because, again, I am always going to pay attention to the chart. There were many reasons, many people calling for 150K here when all we could see were those massive, massive monthly bearish divergences, weekly bearish divergences. Yes, could we go up to 150K? Sure. There's nothing necessarily saying you can't do that, but I am also going to, I would never just think, oh my God, they're going to print money. Oh my God, Trump's going to tweet. Oh my God, super cycle while also still just completely ignoring the bearish signs on the chart. I am always going to go with the signs on the chart. And even in this scenario at the top, this is a bearish confirmation. It is not until we get the drop and see the confirmations on the push to the downside that I'm able to say, hey, it looks like it's likely that 126K is the top. So it's literally the same exact thing down here, right? We have all the technical confirmations. It's just the 4-year cycle that's not lining up. It's a valid thought, I think, but there is an argument for both cases. But from a technical perspective, right, again, the 4-year cycle tells you what has historically happened. The TA is telling you what is actually happening on the live price action. So that's why I take these weekly bull divs very seriously. And at this point, it's not going to be until we start losing major key levels of support where I would say, hey, guys, this is actually starting to look pretty bad, and now we can expect more downside. Just like we talked about at the support that we had here, right? Major horizontal levels of support, monthlies, weeklies, previous all-time high. These are levels where I'm going to be paying attention for those bullish confirmations. And even if the bottom is not in, right, which is possible, of course, we're able to capitalize on that big push to the upside. So monthly green dot is printing. We'll see if it confirms. What do we got here? We got 7 days. To see if that monthly green dot confirms. So, again, it doesn't mean it's 100% likely that the bottom is in, but it's just another list of bullish evidence that these things have called the bottom in the past, right? We have like a laundry list of things on the technical side. The real difficulty here is that elephant in the room of the 4-year cycle. And again, for me, as of right now, right, down here, I listened to the charts. It wound up paying me out. And if it winds up invalidating, we'll have our profits from the long. And of course, I'll just continue to DCA in. And when we come up to potentially break this high, again, it is not just going to be a push into it and, oh my God, the bottom's in, right? I would expect some kind of interaction here, right? Some kind of pullbacks, right? Consolidation, something like that. We need a big move through it and a flip of it into support, right? So we still have a little bit of work to do, but I like to bring this stuff up early, just like we brought up the daily and weekly bull divs down here early for the move into $78,000, right? And I know I feel crazy. It makes me feel crazy sometimes when when we're in this crazy, especially down here, calling for those confirmations, and then throughout this 45 days of sideways price action, it's very hard for people to be like, why the heck is this guy looking for more upside? It just has to do with the technicals and what I expect my setups to do. And it takes time, right? This was, I believe, in June that we started looking at this, and we didn't come up to 78K until the end of August, right? So it can take time. So keep that in mind. So there you go. Let's see here. DXY looking like it wants to push up on the daily. This is potentially, these have decoupled a bit, but they're inversely correlated, DXY to Bitcoin, but there has not really been a great signal over the recent past. But yeah, I mean, I would say here on, as far as the daily on the DXY, money flow coming out. Now, of course, you have that green dot, but again, money flow is always going to indicate the longer term trend, right? Green dot could indicate an ebb or flow to the upside, right? And then that money flow would be coming out, would indicate lackluster bounces, lower highs, lower lows, which could be bullish for Bitcoin. But again, we have seen these kind of uncorrelate in the recent past, but definitely something to pay attention to. Is dropping dollar could be bullish for Bitcoin. And that daily money flow coming out is not a bad sign. 2-day money flow also coming out. But again, right, it's not to come without turbulence, right? If we get the bounce off the daily green dot, the 2-day green dot, right, that could add some correction to Bitcoin. And again, I will show you that kind of invalidation where the bullish case becomes less probable, right? But other than that, right, we are pretty much just basically in a giant range here. Fake out, back in, back to the lows. Bull div at the lows, back in, flip the PLC, back up to the highs, right? Maybe we play around up here. If we get back in, we can start looking for the bigger drop to the downside. But let me jump into these lower time frames real quick, guys, because it's not a lot. There's not a lot of stuff to look at on the lower time frames necessarily just because we don't have a lot of price action. But let me pull this up real quick. Bada boom, right? So we have this little local volume profile. We actually had a short in the Discord from our Fibonacci retracement, golden pocket 786 value area high, got some bear divs into that high. Guess what happens? Back to the POC, back to the low, and then from the low, back above the POC, back into the high. We're currently deviating above here. So this is the local range to get on your chart, 100%. Value area low, 76,441. POC sitting at 77,135, and your value area high is sitting up here at about 78,651. So anybody that may be short, right, from these bearish divergences, again, I would say valid, right? You also had the SFP of the high as well. So anybody short from here, right, the idea would be to eventually, for a pullback, break back into our value area high. Can't get back out? Well, at that point, you could start targeting the POC. This is your first local key level of support. Golden pocket, POC confluence. And then, whoops, I don't know. What did I just click? I don't know what I just clicked. Of course, fulfill the volume profile is in store, right, or in the cards down to the value area low, which also has confluence with the daily MPOC. So these are the two major local levels that I'd be looking at. Could you long the value area high? I mean, hey, definitely this is the level you would want to hold, right? Currently, 78,649. You want to stay out of this volume profile and continue up, right? So if anyone is looking for longs up here, right, well, clear invalidation would be losing the value area low. This would call for a bigger pull through the profile. So key level number one, 77,2 to 77,050 at the golden pocket POC. And then if we lose that, you have the daily MPOC 786, which of course I would just simply treat as a typical volume profile, right? Potential long, right? Once we lose this, let's go take out that low. Now, this low sitting at 75.5 is really the local structure. If we come down here, can't get back inside the range, and we do not get an aggressive bounce, right, from the sweep of this low, this is where I would say you have a higher probability of getting a much bigger correction, potentially bringing you down into about $71, or let's call it $72,000. You have a daily MPOC. And then you also have this anchored VWAP moving its way through there. Once we lose that, well, at that point, right, you also have the bull market support band potentially creeping up there as well. I don't know. It depends on how we move. I don't know exactly where that will be. But yeah, I mean, lose this low could potentially get the drop down towards about $72,000. And let me check that bottom range. Let me just check some of these profiles real quick. Yeah, not in line with any of our profiles. I mean, I guess you're somewhat local to that value area high. But yeah, I would say about $72,000 would be the next stop. If we lose this, could potentially bring us down there. That's just simply our next key level. Right, like lower time frame, this would be something I'd pay attention to. But then when you zoom out, you're looking at this like, well, hey, faked out the value area high. We're back inside the range. Technically, there could be a draw towards that POC and value area low. But you do have the anchored VWAP daily MPOC, and then you also have that bull market support band holding you up. Once we lose this, that is really where, I would say this is the first local sign of weakness. Bitcoin's starting to look a little weak locally. And then, once we get down here and start losing this zone between about, again, these are going to move. 72, if this is coming up maybe around $70,000. Once we start losing that, well, it just looks like we're headed down to that PLC value area low, in which case it could start getting pretty bearish pretty quickly if we can't hold that value area low. Just hide this real quick. So there's your local levels. Just watch that local volume profile. And even locally here, I mean, I guess you could argue that you did have low time frame divergences into your key level as well, right? Not only did you have the 4-hour or the 2-hour divs, the 4-hour bear div looking to print, you also had local divergences up here as well. But you are fighting against, potential 16-hour green dot, 12-hour green dot, 10-hour green dot, and the 8-hour green dot, which is already printing. So, it is kind of like a knife catch situation. So just be aware of that. Like I said, you don't necessarily want to step in front of a freight train. Doesn't mean you can't take the shorts, but just be aware of that situation. If you get stopped out and you push up to the highs, it's not super shocking. But this is really the only local context I can give you, as this is the only kind of structure that we have. So right now, I would say the biggest level on the daily, right, or like day to day, is going to be about $75,500. And until then, I will treat this as a range. Pull back to 71K. Could be healthy and good. Shout out to Bean. I like that name, bro. Yes, especially if you're coming down to retest that, right? Like if we pull back, right, and this anchored VWAP starts pushing up, definitely a big level to look at because it is that bull market support band. Could be a situation like this, right? And losing it, right? It'd be the same thing back here. We start losing the bull market support band. All right, well, hey, could be looking to take out the lows. Could pull this volume profile as well. Yeah, I mean, it's like the same thing. If you lost this, deviation above the high, bearish divergences, back into the range, back to the POC, back towards the low. If we started losing that bull market support band, lose the value area, well, you're already pretty close to the lows. You'd be looking for new lows, right? So I really want to be clear about that, right? Talking about breaking this high does not mean that we are guaranteed never going back down. But on these pullbacks with, again, our 4-day money flow coming into the green, we do have to anticipate potential higher lows and higher highs. And regardless of the 4-year cycle, I'm still going to view the charts through that lens. Doesn't mean it's guaranteed to play out, but, it's here on the charts. Fast move up, fast move down. Yeah, shout out to Mr. Judd. Played out perfectly here. And, could this be fast move down equals fast move up equals fast move down? It could be the case, right? I don't necessarily look at it like that because, again, you want to be aware of the fact that, right, you have the same thing happening here. Fast move down equals fast move up, right? Then you come up. You never really get back fully into that gap, right? So it doesn't just mean you have to, could you? Yes. But I don't look at that as like 1-to-1 necessarily. It's going to have a lot, like what do we have here? 4-day money flow crossing into the green. Sure, you get a big pullback, but there's your higher low and your higher high based on your money flow coming up. I'm not just always just automatically going to expect that big move down, right? A big reason why I anticipated this fast move down to equal a fast move up is not just because of the low volume gap. It's also because of our daily money flow, right? Our daily money flow was coming up, indicating the trend would continue to the upside. So when you have the money flow, the indicators, the signals pointing towards a move to the upside, and then you have that low resistance area to fly through, you have a high chance of filling it. But if we have money flow coming up and we start to re-enter that low volume gap, which again, it really does look very similar to this situation here. If you pull back, right, money flows in the green, we hold the bull market support band. It is very, very similar to what we had happening here, right? Pull back, money flows in the green on the 4-day, higher low, higher high, right? So it's kind of the opposite, right? Money flow is assisting you through this low volume gap, and then on the way back to retest it, you have money flow kind of fighting against you, holding you up. So just some thoughts there. So we'll see, right? Bull market support band, obviously going to be a major level. We start losing that, that's going to be significant. Let's see. Shout out to Dave, said, I'm just here to secretly read Chris's chats in the background. Shout out to Dave Digital. Oh, man, what'd he say? Oh, God. Frankie Daddy, hope you're having a bright and sunny day in the neighborhood. Shout out to Chris. It is a nice sunny day. It is a nice sunny day. It actually is. Shout out to Chris. What is your value area set to? Mine is 70. Is this good? Yes. My value area is set to 70. Only difference is if this is top of the micro run, it's a macro lower high. Yeah, shout out to Bean, right? You do have to be careful, of course, right? We are still in bearish market structure, technically, right? This is still technically a lower high. That's why I talk about breaking above this is going to be the real big decision, right? I mean, we could even technically make a new high, fake this out, and still get a major pullback, which whether that turns into a higher low and a higher high or a lower high and a lower low is to be determined when we come down here and reassess it, right? So, yeah, I mean, big moment here, guys, in the 80s. 82,800. See what happens. And again, even if we fake this out, it's going to take some time, right? Because, you know, it could feel very, very bearish. And if we wind up holding up that, right, like here, you have to think about what everybody is thinking, right? Everyone is thinking, okay, this is typical. That was a super bearish move. Obviously, we're in a bear market, you know, 8K incoming. But it all depends on what the chart looks like down here. When we retested this, money flow still in the green on the 4-day, etc. We were expecting that uptrend to continue, right? And at that point, I believe weekly money flow is starting to cross into the green. Getting very close to crossing into the green, which of course would make you anticipate the continuation of the uptrend as well. So yeah, we got some work to do here, but we are at a very pivotal moment. And for the lower high, based on your Fibonacci retracements, technically, as it stands right now, we are attempting to flip that 786 into support. If we come back down, start to lose it, right? Well, guess what? We can look for that bigger drop to the downside. But if we hold above that 786, the doorway to the $83,000 high, 82,800 is still open. So we'll see. I think the easiest way to view this is through the lens of the volume profile, right? You could potentially spend some, like up here, right? Like we spent some time up there, right? We got above, we wiggled around, bada boom, and then finally we start coming down, get accepted in, big drop down. It's the same exact thing, right? Volume profiles are always going to give you the same type of setups. If you get the early rejection off the medium time frame bear divs that are printing, get back in, lose the low, right? Meaning this low, you can look for the bigger drop down. If we stay above this value area, right? Well, you can keep your eye on that upper resistance. Where's it at? Which sits right up here. I keep deleting. Put that box in there, right? We continue to chop around up here. Well, guess what? You have more resistance up here. If you take the short, you can look down to the value area high. This would be a big level to look at, potentially moving your stop loss to break even. If you break in, beautiful short. If you bounce, you can get stopped out for no loss. So there you go. I mean, you could even argue, right? Like, this is a whole big area of resistance. And, you know, it's all the same thing, right? We break out, right? At that point, you're really going to want to hold on top of this value area, which at that, you know, if we come up first, right, this anchored VWAP, the bull market support band could continue trending to the upside. But, you know, don't get it twisted. We are at resistance here, even locally at the daily MPOC. We are at resistance with bear divs. I just really prefer that high to get taken out. So, yeah, unless I see like some kind of an aggressive entry on a sign of weakness, I'm being patient here. Yeah, the short won't be easy. I would have to agree with that, right? Because like you are at it's almost similar to this, right? Because this is like a big level, if rejected, could send you down in a big way, but also if you break above it, could give you the big move up in a big way. So yeah, it's definitely not going to be easy. And I wouldn't expect it to be. I'll just leave that box there. So we'll see. Only time will tell here, guys. Can you check the 4-hour bearish divergence? There it is. Red dot not printing just yet, right? So if it prints, you will finally have that bear div with the SFP into the high, which again is a bearish confirmation, right? Maybe you start to see a little bit of a pullback there. In which case, I gave you all the local levels. Does anybody have any questions? Ask them in the chat. Volume profile is S tier. Yeah, shout out to BSV, guys. I say this every time. I'll say it again. I will continue to say it. If you are not using volume profiles, I do not know what you are doing. It is the best way to view the market, in my opinion. Not the only way to view the market, not the only successful way to view the market, but it is one of the best ways to view the market, in my opinion. A lot of people, how do you do it? How do you know, right? Well, at the end of the day, I don't know. Like people say, is the bottom in, right? My genuine answer to that, guys, is I don't know. Nobody does. All we can do is look at the confirmations, look at the charts, and have a probability, right? Right now, I would say the probability is looking okay. It does not mean that cannot change, right? And then the bigger we break, the higher we go, the stronger the case becomes that the bottom is in, right? If we wind up just pushing up here, getting a pullback, flipping this into support, right, the chances become higher and higher that the bottom is in. There really is no guaranteed 100% signal. I wish there was. Nobody has it, right? People might say they have it. They don't, right? They're lying to you. And people think they need that 100% certainty, which of course is not true. We even talked about the strategies that I use. Like, I don't know where the bottom is going to be exactly. All I can do is use the TA to identify what signals I'm looking for to anticipate that the bottom is likely in. And if it's not, I can continue to weighted dollar cost average in lower. It's the same thing back here. When we saw this weekly bull div, it was very similar to what we're in right now. It's like, hey, guys, the weekly bull div is confirmed, right? We start breaking out here. We start flipping that bull market support band. It's looking really good that the bottom is in. But that does not mean that we couldn't have seen a loss of this level, right? It just happened to be right. And this was easier. This was a bit easier back in 2022 because you had all the technical confirmations and you had the 4-year cycle lining up. Here, you have all the technical indications, but you do not have the 4-year cycle lining up. So it's a reason to keep an open mind for the bearish case. Let's see. Yes. Facts. Volume profiles speak volumes. Absolutely. Shout out to Simonelia. I never know how to say your name, brother, but thank you so much for the super chat. Said, bought at 58K and sold at 65. Feels so bad. Shout out to Simonelia. Yeah, I mean, that is probably a very psychologically difficult thing to deal with. I don't know what your plan was or like what your goal was. If it was to take a trade from 58K and close it at 65K, beautiful trade. If your idea was accumulate and then you got scared up here and sold on the pullback, that is a little bit different, right? Maybe that was a little psychological for you. Maybe you got a little nervous. I don't know the exact situation, but if it was just a trade, bro, that's not a bad trade, right? Just because you don't hold the rest of it to fill the volume profile doesn't mean that long in 58 and selling at 65 is a bad trade. Really depends on what, was that your long-term spot accumulation, in which case I would say, for me personally, anything I buy down here, I'm not selling it here if we're pulling back, hoping to catch the bottom, right? If we come back down, that bag will go underwater for a little bit, and I'll continue to accumulate lower, lowering my average entry price, right? I say this every day. I don't care about, back in 2022, my average entry price was about here. When we were up at 126K, I did not care that I was not in from 15K and I was in from 21. I don't care. I just caught generally the bottom. So it'd be the same thing here. We wind up making a new low. I'll just continue to dollar cost average in. My average entry price is, we lose 58K. My average entry price is, let's say we bottom out at 30K. My average entry is at 42. It's like, whatever, right? Like, I'm just trying to catch the bulk of the move. So again, I don't know your exact situation, but I can empathize with the feeling of doing that because I can't say I've never done that. I've definitely been in those situations. Yeah, shout out to Dave Digital. Bro, profit is profit. Take the win and then win again. Absolutely. I separate my trading from my long-term portfolio, right? I think that's a smart thing to do, right? Because of the leverage trades, I'm really trying to get in as close to the bottom as I can. I'm really taking profit at exact key levels for my accumulation, right? Like, I could really only use this as an example. I dollar cost averaged in, bada boom, very similar, almost the exact same thing as the current situation here. If we went lower here, well, I would just continue to buy in lower. Because eventually, right, your thought process is whether the bottom's in at 15 or you have to go to 12 or you have to go to 8, eventually you're going to end up here at some point. So there you go. And it would be interesting. I think like the one big thing that I think about that is like, what is my argument that this is not going to play out in a bullish manner and we are going to make new lows? It would be the fact that, sometimes I think I have, I don't know the word for it, right? Like, sometimes I was talking to somebody this weekend, like sometimes I feel like what I see as very obvious may not seem obvious to other people. And I was telling them, I'm like, the only thing that really makes me sketched out is like, this is exactly what we were looking for at the almost exact level before we ever came down here. Like, for this just to play out would be almost unbelievable to be able to call that so far in advance, which makes me think maybe it won't play out. But they were telling me, they're like, well, listen, man, like that is not obvious to a lot of people. And like sometimes I think I lose track of how much experience I really have. And what might be obvious to me might not be obvious to the masses, which would be, again, we talked about how this would be a very hated rally. As most people are looking much lower. I would still say the most painful case at this point would be something similar to this, right? Which would be very scary liquidation, dump, and then the bears feel really good, and then it just continues up. I still think the most painful blueprint, right, or journey for price is to for the most part continue to the upside. What are most people hoping for right now? I'll say it right now. I think most people are hoping for lower prices. And whether they come or not, they're going to feel those emotions up there, because when they see a big move up like this and it gets really exciting, they're thinking, oh my God, I hope I didn't miss the bottom. So naturally, the majority of people are going to call for those lower, or not call, but hope for those lower prices, which makes me think the most painful case, same thing down here. Most people want those lower prices. This is going to be a hated rally, right? We talked about this months before it happened. And it would be the same thing right now, right? I still think most people are going to be calling for lower. It wouldn't be until we really started seeing massive strength that, a lot of people say, well, what if they lure the bears in and then dump it to new lows? That would be the most painful. Maybe. But I just still think leaving everybody behind here would still be the most painful case, most painful path for the market to take. What about BTC hitting the high before the halving? Shout out to RP. I don't know exactly what you mean by that. Do you mean Bitcoin hitting the high before the next halving, or are you talking about Bitcoin hitting the high here before the halving? Let me know. Biggest market correction is about to happen. It's going to rock bottom. Shout out to Divine. Maybe. I don't know exactly what you would be looking at as rock bottom, but yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, we keep this, fake out the high, lose all our support. I mean, yeah. And maybe the 4 year, again, the two most probable paths are the same ones that we looked at even back in the beginning of the drop, which is optimistic case, which we discussed at the top. If we come down and we see an optimistic lackluster bear market based on the lack of retail euphoria at the top, on top of the logarithmic regression, on top of seeing the bullish confirmations, right? The thought process on the way down here was, if we see bull divs down here on the weekly, why is that a significant thing to pay attention to? Well, it's a very significant thing to pay attention to because there's an argument to be had here that this could be a lackluster bear market, right? No retail euphoria, no alt season, all that stuff, less panic selling, logarithmic regression, retest of the all-time high, all historically things that you would look at for the bottom on top of that weekly bull div. Doesn't mean it's guaranteed to play out, right? Because that's the optimistic case. And I said, as I was talking about on the way down, I'm optimistic for something like this to be the case. So far, it has been correct, right? Doesn't mean it's going to play out exactly as you want it to. The bearish case is more something like this, where we get like a big retracement, right? This was drawn a little bit earlier, but big retracement, and then you get the big 50% correction down to the 30s, right? Which is what the 4 year cycle would be calling for, right? I can pull up the cycle chart here real quick. Let me just pull this up real quick, right? Take some of these off. All right, so a lot of people are waiting for October. These are the two major things that don't line up. We haven't hit the 365 days from the top, and we also have not hit the expected, if you just average out these previous drawdowns, right? This was 86%, 83%, 84%, 77%. If you average those out, you'd be expecting about a 73% drop, right? So for the bearish case, your thought is that we will get another big capitulation down here, right? And then maybe bottom out in October. Valid? Sure. Again, there's a lot of conflicting things here, which makes it very difficult, right? Like I said, it was a lot easier at the top. It was a lot easier to call the top for me personally because you had the bearish divergences, but then when you look at the timing, top to top, 1,428 days. Top to top, this was about 1,428 days. So you have the bearish confirmations and the 4-year cycle perfectly telling you that the top is likely here, right? You had two major things. There's two major things that I pay attention to on Bitcoin. It's the technicals and the 4-year cycle. Here, at the top, it lined up perfectly, which lined up with a perfect top call, right? Here, it lined up perfectly, 378 days. You had enough time for the bear market to play out. You had all the bullish technicals, right? And you had the 77% drop, which if you average these out was around what you would expect, right? So it was like perfectly lining up. This is not perfectly lining up, right? And it's very difficult for me to say, right? Like the only reason I talk about the possibility of the bottom being in is because of the technicals. If this was 370 days after the top, if it was a 73% correction, I would be very, very, very confident that it's like, I don't know how much lower you guys want this to go. The bottom is probably in. Here, it's like, well, hey, we have all the bullish confirmations. We just got to see if that 4-year cycle is going to play out, which I'm very happy with the way I'm positioned right now because throughout all of this, I've talked about how I don't mind being exposed a little bit early for that optimistic case to potentially play out. And if it doesn't, I'll just continue to weighted dollar cost average on the way down. So we'll see what happens. Let's see. If you won the lottery, what would you buy right now? Shout out to Matthew Morrison. I don't know. Probably a bunch of goats. I would buy a bunch of goats. I don't know. What would you buy? Let me know. Shout out to JP, said Frankie did not answer my question, and for that reason, BTC is going to 0. Shout out to JP. I don't know what your question was. Send it again. Hopefully I see it this time. NFTs, shout out to Bob Strick. I don't really have a huge opinion on NFTs. The one thing I will say is I think the technology of a NFT has a decent use case. As far as buying NFTs to make money and trading NFTs, it's not really my forte. I don't like patterns, but both BTC and ETH are forming a beautiful cup and handle on the hourly. We are curling up, testing 25.49 again. Could you please check out some targets on ETH? Yeah, we'll take a look at ETH. We'll take a look at Solana and a couple other altcoins as well. As you know, I'm not a big pattern guy either, right? The simple reason for that is price does not move because of a shape on the chart. It moves because of buying and selling, right? But doesn't mean that you have to ignore them. But let's see, cup and handle on the hourly. I see what you're talking about. A little cup ski, little handly, maybe a pop ski. Again, not really something that I pay much attention to. But yeah, I could see what you're looking at there. Let's go ahead and check out Ethereum here real quick. XRP continuing up. Let's pull up Ethereum real quick. All right, so I just pull up some of these key levels, right? So we had our daily MPOC here as our next target. I believe we had something else in there as well. Yeah, we had a daily. Can take this off, can take this off, can take this off. So daily MPOC. Bear with me here. So similar on Ethereum. I'll take a look at it from the macro real quick. Talked about this obviously way back in the day. At this point, at the value area low, doorway is open to the POC. As long as we stay inside this value area, doorway to the POC remains open. Once you flip the POC, the next highest probability major target would, of course, be the value area high. Now, I would not necessarily expect this coming today, tomorrow, or next week, but that is a very long-term view, right? For us to fill this entire profile, it took 215 days, right? So it can take some time. But next local target here at about $2,500 has been tapped. Daily MPOC, daily horizontal. We are currently above the resistance. If I pull up and there's the value area low. So right now, again, from a higher time frame perspective, if we stay on top of $2,500, right, if we don't get a big pullback and we get a push to the upside, next major target very clearly sitting here between 2677 and 2743. If we end up losing this and getting a pullback, I would simply just be looking at our volume profile, right? Key level, you have some resistance. You technically have a bear div here. This is not really what I like to see for divergences, though. I like to see them a little bit more local. I don't like these sharp angles on bearish divergences. And the reason for that is in an uptrend, right, you're just like naturally going to continue to put in higher highs. I like, if this was a high, higher high, something like that, maybe that would look a little better. But yeah, you could see the high, the higher high. You get the pullback, but it wasn't really like a massive drop. And you flip that daily into support. So as long as you stay above this daily, I would say your next target sits up there between, again, 2677 and 2743 to continue pushing up through your larger profile. If we get a correction, we end up very similar to Bitcoin, right? If we lose this low, that's where we can look to the previous value area high at about 2240. That's going to be your biggest level of support. So if Ethereum ends up coming back down, losing this daily and low, assuming we don't get like an SFP there, biggest level, 2240. Get accepted into the range. We can look back down towards the POC at about 2059. And then we just treat this as a volume profile. But as far as the macro range, right, we are pretty deep through this, right? It's not like, if we come down here, we're losing the macro value area. Cheap, expensive. And let me just pull up where's that 2024? So let me just hide this, hide the macro, and then just looking at this from our 2024 range as well, right? This is a very key level. Value area low, you have the confluence with your horizontals, but at this point, right, could we get this value area low, although the doorway to higher prices is also resistance until proven otherwise, right? Resistance, could get a pullback here, right? But eventually, once we flip this level at 2475 and remain above it, the next target becomes that next key zone at about 2750, and then eventually get above that, we can start pushing up towards that POC at $3,100. So retesting this very, very key range. Resistance, yes. Could we get a pullback? Yes. But once we break above that, this is the next target. And then longer term, we can start looking up towards that POC at about $3,100, which is also confluent with a ton of horizontal levels here as well. And it looks pretty clean when you look at it through this perspective, right? Huge deviation. You come back up, right? Reject, get back in, fill the range in full. Deviate above, back in, can't get out, fill the range in full. Big deviation, back up, get back in here. We can start working our way up through that larger profile. So looking at our high time frame money flow, let me just hide some of these key levels. Pull my fib. Don't pull your fib in public, guys. Quick reminder. Could land you in jail. Yeah, tapping into that golden pocket as well. So can kind of drag that resistance up a little bit. So you had your golden pocket. Yeah, so definitely pushing into resistance, but reclaim this value area. Definitely going to be looking up towards that 2,700 area. Let me just see something here. Yeah, prefer to look at it like this. Give me 1 sec. Just reset that real quick. Whoops. So get above here. Next major target, 27.55. Very clear. And then, pullbacks, you got a decent bit to pull back here before you start, losing significant structure. And we technically have taken out the high, right? So I'd be careful of that range fake out. If we pull back, pulling our full fib here, you got big zone down here. So, pretty far away. I'll cover this if and when we have to get there. But right now, I could try to pull this local profile. I could actually just pull this up like that. Yeah. So we wind up losing that daily. 2240 is your biggest level. Once we break that, I'd be looking for a bigger pullback. And again, you do have a fast move here. Could be a fast move down towards that PLC at 2060, I'm sorry. Taking a look at our high time frame money flow, 2-day attempting to come up here. 3-day crossing into the green. 4-day also crossing into the green. And again, right, when I want to see a massive lower high for a massive lower low, what do I want to see here, guys? If I wanted this to be a massive lower high for a massive lower low, what would we want money flow to look like, right? Well, I would want money flow to literally be doing the opposite of what it's doing right now, right? I would want a green wave, spending a lot of time in the green, about to cross into the red. Now, it doesn't mean that this money flow can't fake out, but at face value here, I would have to say on any pullbacks, it is valid to be looking for potential higher lows and potential higher highs until that money flow fakes out. So, again, the easiest way I can say it is like if the chart looked like this, right? If money flow looked like this, literally inverting the colors here, right? Well, at that point, I'd be saying, oh God, right? If we test that, massive lower high for a massive lower low, because that 4-day money flow would be indicating the overall trend, right? This would be a lower high or a continuation down. But that is not what we have here, right? It's like very hard for me to call for that because money flow is coming into the green. 5-day money flow, also attempting to trend up. Still have a lot of work to do here, a little bit of work to do here. 6-day money flow, it's all generally trying to trend back up. Weekly money flow crossing into the green as well. So yeah, big doorway here up into the $3,100 zone. So there you go. That's what I would be looking at. Be careful of that resistance, and if we can hold it, well, hey, we're breaking into a new profile. Not too shabby. Shout out to Dave Digital, said this year I'm dressing up as a significant high and a significant low, and I'm hoping somebody is going to pull my fib. Shout out to Dave Digital. I assume you're talking about a Halloween costume. It's a clever strategy, bro. Let's see. Market Cipher Green Dot printing on the monthly as marks. Yeah, shout out to Yarbroke. Shout out Yarbrock. I don't know how to say your name. Yeah, we actually already covered that. Has called that the bottom has been in every single time. So hopefully it plays out the same this time. Shout out to Dave, said, Frankie, do you sometimes wish we were all sitting next to each other with our shirts off, all sweaty, trading Bitcoin? Shout out to Dave. No, definitely. I definitely never had a dream about that. Never, bro. 100% never happened, I swear. Or did it? Shout out to Dave. Shout out to Green in the chat. Said, what's good, Frankie? Shout out to you, bro. What's good? What's going on? All right, so there is Ethereum. Let's go ahead and jump into Solana here real quick. So we looked at Solana last week. Big volume gap here. I could pull up the VPVR to just give you an idea of what we're looking at. Massive volume gap ahead of us. We did have this little high volume node, which it does look like we are rejecting right now. But at the end of the day, I would say the biggest level on the chart as of right now for Solana is really going to be this high volume node at about 84, almost 85 bucks, right? This is the highest volume node throughout all of the price action you see on my screen right now. So this is basically the line that I drew last time, which was, we have resistance. If we cool off, we must hold on top of this high volume node. If we do, we have an opportunity to break into the low volume gap, and very similar to Bitcoin, talking about breaking through this low volume gap and into the value area to see it fill in full, which of course already played out. It'd be very similar here, right? Fast move down could equal fast move up, targeting around $125. The invalidation for that, at least locally, would be losing about $85. Because of course, right, we got stuck underneath it, right? We break above this. We want to see this, if we cool off, flip into support for an eventual break through that range. Not range, low volume gap. And then the next major resistance would be about $126, which could be resistance until proven otherwise. Once we flip that, we could look to push through our larger upper profile. So nothing has really changed here on Solana. When we look at this value area low test, you do have potential for our bearish divergences, or I'm sorry, not value area low, low volume gap test. Let me see if we have any. Test the MPOCs here, or check the MPOCs rather. All right, so we got no weekly MPOCs. We did have a weekly horizontal here, which has now been tapped already, so I won't even mark it out. Let's check the monthly. No monthly MPOCs. Check the dailies. No daily MPOCs. They might be coming from up here, but I can't check back that far, unfortunately. Let me see if it'll load. Probably won't. Let's see if I can get these to load up. No. Unfortunately, can't pull those. Let's see. Yeah, no weeklies. See if I have any dailies over here. All right, so we got a daily right here. And a daily right up there. And you got a weekly here as well. Yeah, so say your next major resistance sitting like right there if we get the big fill. Until then, you do have a daily here. It's kind of isolated. It's all by itself there, so it's not like you have a cluster of 5 different high time frame levels. You just have the daily there, so that could add a little bit of turbulence. But again, it's very similar to when we look at the move on Bitcoin here, and we look at that similar scenario. I think I still have that gap fill in a folder. Right? It was the same thing here. Come on, volume. Right? How do we anticipate that we would have a fast move through this gap? Well, very simply put, when you're just looking at the price action, fast move down equals fast move up. But when we look at the relative volume here, you have a very, very, very large volume gap here, right? So, and what did we have? 71,440 was a daily MPOC, right? But it was all by itself. We shoot right through it, right? So that's why I wouldn't necessarily say that daily is a massive, massive level. Could either shoot through it. It's definitely something to be aware of. But I would say like that next, bigger level is going to be up towards that value area low, right? Bull divs at the low, as we typically like to see on the higher time frames. There's your weekly bull div, lower lows, higher lows, money flow attempting to trend up here. So that could indicate the trend is likely to continue up. So if we hold above $85, break into this low volume gap, you may have a shot at coming up there into the $125 zone. And it, again, could be a fast push to the upside through that gap. So there you go. That is what I'd be looking at on Solana. Bada boom. I have trouble reading cycles. Ask all of my ex-girlfriends. Shout out to Dave Digital, bro. That's crazy. Why it's obvious to you BTC will continue up. Shout out to Rocket Rides. Well, the obvious move to the upside has kind of already happened, right? This was the obvious move to the upside to fill our volume profile, and the reason for that was the volume profile and this low volume gap that I just pointed out, right? The fast move up was based off of the low volume gap, which of course, pull up the profile again. Right, this was living inside our profile, right? So we can say, hey, if we break, this is very similar to Solana as well, right? Like Solana sitting with that $85 high volume node was the same thing on Bitcoin, right? We had the high volume node here sitting at about 64.1. That was the last long setup that we had in the Discord before the big move up, literally at 64.1, right into that. We had a POC and that high volume node, literally got the rip from there. But that's what makes the move. And again, I wouldn't say there's no obvious move, right? But for me, the reason I expect to see a fast move through here and the push up to $78,000 that we've been talking about since June is all based on the volume profiles, right? Like this is the way that the market moves. It's just auction market theory, right? This is cheap. This is expensive. When we come down here with bullish confirmations, I have no choice but to say I am taking a long. And if we can flip this value area low POC, I'm going to look for this full fill. And the fact that we had that massive low volume gap makes this a very high probability fill because we had the bull divs at the low. We're expecting the full fill of the volume profile with money flow coming up. And then when you have this low resistance zone, right, meaning the low volume node, it's very likely it'll be a fast move to the upside. The move from where we are now to higher prices, I would say, is a little less obvious. Because again, you have that elephant in the room of the 4-year cycle. Oh my God. Are we going to get the next 50% collapse, right? Well, that's not clear on the chart just yet. We have not flipped our major market structure, right? Once we can finally get above this and flip it into support, the argument for the continuation higher is very likely, the argument increases, right? The probabilities increase that the bottom could be in. But right now, I would say I don't know if there is an obvious move straight to the upside from here, right? We've already gotten a big move, right? If you're looking for longs, I would say, I'm happy I don't have to chase the longs here, and I'm happy holding my long from 58K. But, of course, you want to be positioned before these large moves, right? You don't want to wait for the big move and then be like, oh, my God, now I'm going to long. This is like a trap that most people fall in, right? They see the big move up. They're like, oh, my God, we're bullish now. And then they look to take a long, right? And even if it plays out to the highs, they're actually playing into a major, major level of resistance, which is oftentimes going to call a pullback, right? And then they're longing the top. They get scared on the pullback. They're like, okay, fine, I'll short it. And then eventually maybe you get a higher low and they just get, you're just playing the opposite game. You're on the wrong side of that ping pong game. So, I would say just in general, there was never really, again, obvious moves. Maybe that was obvious. But obvious implies that it's going to happen. It does not matter. I've seen good setups with all the confirmations not play out. I've seen garbage setups play out. It's really the probability game, right? When you have a good setup, those are going to play out more often than not. And when you have bad setups, those are not going to play out more often than not, right? So it's not like, when I see this daily bull div, I have a bias, right? Of course, if you've been watching the content for any amount of time since back here, my bias has been to see the overall continuation up. Not only continuation up, but literally specifically through this range into the value area high at 78K. But I would never, ever say, guys, bull div at the low, it's guaranteed going up. People always want to look for that because they want trading to be that easy. It's just not, right? They don't want to have to worry about managing risk. They just want to know, can I buy here and never have to worry about it? Am I going to get rich overnight? Which, of course, is a pipe dream. So how do I handle that, right? Well, I take my trades with my stop loss at my invalidation. And, once I'm up in profit here, I have profits locked in. There's no reason for me, especially with the money flow coming up on the daily, not to hold a portion of that position, to wait for my high probability situation to play out, not my guaranteed situation. Does that make sense? Because even here, if we wound up getting a big rejection and I got stopped out of that long, I would have gotten stopped out in profit. So yeah, I wouldn't necessarily say a move up is obvious. We have a big battle here at 83K. Let's see. Shout out to Alex, says, yo, Frankie Candles, is that a custom bottom indicator or could you find it on TradingView? Shout out to you, brother. I don't know exactly what you're talking. If you're talking about this indicator here, I wouldn't call this a bottom indicator. I would just call this an oscillator. This is Market Cipher B. It is a paid indicator. You could check our link in the description down below if you want to save some money. But if you're talking about this tool, the fixed range volume profile, this is a free tool on TradingView. So again, I don't know exactly, but I wouldn't consider this a bottom indicator or this a bottom indicator. It's the signal it's giving us that could be a bottom indicator, right? Could be. Again, just like 2022. But again, I'll just like save you the, I don't know if this is how you're thinking. There is no indicator that you can have that is going to tell you exactly where the bottom is, and it's going to be super easy. It's just not, right? But there you go. This is Market Cipher. These are fixed range volume profiles. This is free on TradingView. This is a paid indicator. Hopefully that answers your question. Shout out to Yarbrook. Man, I don't know how to say any of these names. Says, Teji seasonally says, 365 days after all-time high is the low. That would be October. You can tell the masses that it'll be in October, and they front-run it, pushing it back into September. Buy the rumor, sell the news, I guess is what you meant to say. Yeah, we just went over the 4-year cycle. It would be calling for a drop, looking for a bottom in October for another 50% drop. But again, you know, we would have to wait for the invalidation of this potential change in trend, right? Which in my opinion, I think the first major sign of weakness would be losing like 71K. And then down here, you know, it becomes lower probability that we're going to hold up. If we lose this, then we're looking for the lows. So we'll just have to let price action kind of develop, because if this does push back down, right, we'll have development on the money flow. We'll have other signals to look at to potentially anticipate if we're looking for a higher low here or if we're looking for new lows to come in. But as of right now, I would say the bullish case is still intact, right? As we talked about throughout all of this price action, right? Bull divs with the money flow coming up on the daily, bullish scenario. Bull divs at the low, come back in, fill the entire volume profile, right? Again, back here, I had a lot of people asking me, like, I don't understand how you could possibly be looking for that, man. Don't you understand? We're bottoming in October. It's easy. I'm just like, listen, man, maybe we bottom in October, but with these confirmations and these technicals, I'm looking for this move up to 78K. So throughout all of this, it's like bullish case is in line. Bullish case is in line. Oh my God, we're pulling back. Is it invalidated? No. Money flows in the green on the daily. We can still look for higher lows and higher highs. As a matter of fact, we could have technically pulled all the way down to like 61K and it still could have been intact, right? It wasn't until we lost this golden pocket that I would say, hey, now I'm looking for new lows. Until we lose that golden pocket, I am holding my long for a fill of this volume profile. And I like to show this to you because I'm like holding nothing back, right? Like this is how I was able to do that. Not longing here saying we have to go to 78K, but taking profit along the way and then waiting for the invalidation, right? If we dropped here, lost this level, I would have expected new lows, right? And that could have very well happened, right? But again, the TA is going to be right more often than it's not. Once in a while, you'll see me say, hey, if we lose, if we hold this golden pocket, bullish case is still in line, right? Sometimes you can get, that just doesn't play out, right? TA is not going to be 100%. It's a big thing. If you want to learn how to trade or learn how to do technical analysis, the one big thing to understand is it's not some like magic pill that's going to make you right 100% of the time, right? I've been wrong before. I'll be wrong again. Obviously, we are right very often, but it would be an unrealistic expectation for me to expect myself to be right 100% of the time. But all I can do is understand the technical confirmations and understand the probability. The probability here was higher that we continued to 78K. It doesn't mean it was impossible to lose the lows. But a lot of people, that's like a tough pill for a lot of people to swallow because they want to think that if they get really good at reading the charts, they're just going to be able to look at one signal and be like, that's it. This is the perfect time to buy. And there's no stress. There's no worry. It's just not how it works. Buying right now would be irrational and gambling. I mean, it depends on, I guess, your thought process. But yeah, I mean, you guys kind of knew my thought process down here. I like to buy as price is coming down, right? I don't want to have to worry about stressing it and trying to buy on the way up. But again, what do most people not want to do, right? A lot of people, the sentiment is trash here. No one wants to buy this because they're all waiting for 40 and 30K, which who knows? Maybe it comes in. If it comes in, I have my plan. But the problem here is, again, I've explained this in the past. I would much rather be in a situation where I, like even here in 2022, I dollar cost average, right? At this point, I'm thinking, hey, I'm positioned with a good amount of my capital. It looks like this weekly bull div, the bottom can be in because we had the 4-year cycle and the technicals lining up. It looked very good that this could be the bottom, right? If it wasn't the bottom, I would have continued to dollar cost average in. But what if, and this is the same thing I said back here, you have to ask yourself the question, what if 8K doesn't come? What if 10K doesn't come? What if 12K doesn't come? Do you have a plan? Because you should, right? And I would rather be in a situation where I dollar cost average, we continue lower, and I continue to buy on the way down, and then whenever we get the move up, I'm enjoying that move, rather than just waiting for some magical number to come in that never comes in, and then I'm stuck thinking, oh, it's going to go lower. Oh, it's going to go lower, and then I'm eventually going to end up having to be stuck up here buying into the bull market top, which is not a situation I'm willing to be in. I would much rather have my spot bag and drawdown and continue to buy lower rather than have zero exposure, and then if price goes up, I have to buy all my bags up higher. That is a situation, you just have to ask yourself that question, right? Like, what if your target doesn't get hit? Because that's the same question I ask myself. Yeah, probabilities and statistics, if this, then that. Yes, 100%. Trading is an if this, then that statement. And it's just difficult, right? Because most people, and I know this from experience because this is how I used to think, was I thought there was a way to just know where the bottom, like I just don't know about the indicator. I just don't know about the entry trigger. I just don't know about that thing that's going to tell me when the bottom is in. You're chasing something that doesn't exist if you're looking for that, right? You have to have a deep understanding of the market, and it's very complex. So trading is an if this, then that statement, not we have to hit this level, then all-time highs, right? It's an if this, then that statement. If we eventually get a big break above this level and flip this into support, then that increases the probabilities that the bottom could be in. Not the bottom has to be in because of the bull divs, and we're definitely 100% guaranteed going up. Now, you could have a bias, right? I would say my base case right now, or my bias, as it has not changed, right? I have not changed my base case since before we came down to these lows. When we were up here looking for the big push down, I said the first thing I will pay attention to are weekly bull divs into our massive key level of support in the low high 50s, low 60s. If we get those weekly bull divs, we could be in a situation for a lackluster bear market. That does not mean this has to play out, right? If this, then that. If we come down here with weekly bull divs, we look for the move up. We got it, right? That does not mean it's guaranteed to play out long term, right? If we fake out this high and start losing 70K, well, then the 4-year, it starts to lose probability, right? This doesn't change my long-term plan. I'm not going to try to sell my spot Bitcoin up here and then buy back lower. I will just wait for the big drop, and if we keep coming down, I will continue to dollar cost average in because, again, I am not worried about sniping the low for my spot bag. I simply don't care. So if this, then that. If this, then there's a higher probability, increases the probability of the bottom being in. Right? That's the if this, then that. If this, and we lose 70K, well, then potentially that, right? You don't want to make predictions. You want to make educated decisions based on the higher probability. Right? It's not like when I came down here, I knew for a fact that we were going up to 78K. I just knew there was a high probability with the weekly and the daily bull div that we would get a push at least into the value area low. And then at that point, stop loss to break even, break above here, we can look for the move to 78K. Right? If this, then that. Right? If we come down to the golden pocket at 61K and lose it, well, then that. Right? You have to shift your mindset from prediction to probability. Everybody wants the prediction. It's easier. It's simpler. It's it would be nice, right, if you could just be like, oh, green dot on the monthly guaranteed going up, right? But it just doesn't work like that, unfortunately. Let's see. Wick's wife in the chat. Shout out to Wick's wife in a platonic, friendly way. Shout out to Wick 589. Not hitting on your wife. Shout out to Wick's wife in the chat. DCA all day. Not really, but at least once a week. Shout out to Wick's wife. Let's go. Yeah, it depends on each individual timeline. DCA is the way. If you have a macro time frame in mind, this is a great price at support. Yeah, shout out to Yorbrock. Again, don't know how to say your name. But yeah, it's it depends on your plan, right? Like my thought process here is that I believe in the next 5 years, 10 years, into the next cycle, right, and beyond, I believe Bitcoin will go higher, right? I don't think I'm going to look back in the next 10 years and be like, man, I should have never bought that Bitcoin, because eventually I do expect this to be much higher, right? And, even if we did get a big drop to 30K, right, I will just continue to weighted dollar cost average in. I don't know exactly, depending on the situation, where my entry would be, right? But when we're at 150, 200K, I'm not going to look back here and be like, right, say you're at 200K, right? I'm not going to look back and be like, man, I wish I was in from 35K instead of 43K. I capitalized on a bulk of the move, and the easiest way for me to show you guys that is back in 2022. I did not buy the exact bottom. My entry is $21,000. When I was up at 126, I did not care that I was in from here and not here. Most people will miss the forest for the trees. So, looking good so far. Looking good so far. We just have to, when we get that retracement, maybe from that high, we just have to hope that we can hold on top of that support. As soon as we start seeing invalidations, I will start talking about the idea of the bullish case becoming less and less probable. And when it's time to start calling for the new lows, I will talk about it. When I make videos like I did on Saturday, I really try my best to not to really approach it from a logical database standpoint. I am never one of those people that's going to come up here and be like, bottom's in, guys, I'm calling it. It's always a probability situation, right? And it's like there is never anything on the chart, right? Like, it's at the end of the day, when you look at this from a full, there's an argument to be made here that if you go up to this macro 786 at $111,000, you could technically put in a lower high and a lower low, right? This is the same thing as the fib pull from the all-time high to the low, right? A lot of people would say, well, there's your golden pocket 786. That's your full retracement. We're going down for a new low. That's not, of course, the looking at the cycle helps with this, right? Like at that point, you're well beyond the 365 days from the low. And I look at this as once we flip this, that's where you can really start cooking into new all-time highs. So I would not, but from a technical Fibonacci perspective, right? Any other move on the chart that we look at, higher time frames are a little different, but like this would be the highest you want that retracement to go. If you can't get above there, right, maybe you can see a new low come in. That is not the way I view these high time frame fibs, right? Because at that point, the bottom is very likely, pretty much you're looking for all-time highs. Break above that 786, you're looking to take out this high, which is the all-time high. So, I mean, there's a million different scenarios that can play out. But, we absolutely nailed the bottom here for now, right? As soon as it looks like it's going to break down, I will be the first person to let you know. But right now, I would say the bullish case is still very much intact, following through with what we were looking for down here, right? And when you look at the Discord, right, it's like you push in here. Now it's time to reassess the situation, right? What does money flow look like? What does it look like we could continue the uptrend? Well, look at your 4-day money flow. I mean, this could very easily call for a pullback, a higher low, and an eventual higher high. Maybe people start looking at a head and shoulders here. Oh my God, we're going to break out. So there you go, right? But this is a major level of resistance. Be aware. Could be pullbacks here. The pullback from this level is going to be very, very important to pay attention to, because what it does on the way down and the levels that we hold could indicate whether we will see something like this, potentially increasing the probability that the bottom's in, or if it doesn't look good and we come down, well, then we could start looking for new lows once we start losing those key levels of support. And I'll keep you guys updated on those exact key levels that I'm looking at every day here on the live streams. Frankie doesn't know how to say my name either. Say my name, Frankie. Say it. Bass. I'm calling you Bass. Shout out to you, bro. I don't know why YouTube changed their handles. It's super annoying. Why is Wintermute shorting with 90 million? They would get liquidated if the market goes up. I mean, they're probably shorting because they think it's going to go down, is my guess. I still love you, Frankie. Shout out to Bass. I'll never be able to say that name. Drum and bass. I'm sorry. I'll call you bass. So there you go, guys. That's what I'm looking at. We got the major level of resistance here. I mean, if we're going to get a big rejection, I would expect it to come from this level. If you scroll back to the beginning of the stream, if you just tuned in, I cover the exact levels that I'm looking at here. But very simply put, I'm viewing this through the volume profile perspective. And of course, above a volume profile is where I start to be careful for those pullbacks. I would prefer to get a sweep of the high. If we don't get it, it is what it is. Lose the value area high, we can look for the bigger pullback. And then on those moves down, we can identify if it's going to be a higher probability of something like that or something like that. Very simple. You got to wait for the market to show its hands. And we'll see if that 4-hour bear div prints. If not, we're looking higher up into that zone. Does this all make sense? Does anybody have any questions? Let me know in the chat. Shout out to Dave said, Wick likes the way my muscles bulge in a YouTube chat. Shout out to Dave. Flexing on the Mafia. Come on. Shout out to Angelo says, Darren, yeah, but I just answered a guy who thought that it's impossible for Wintermute's position to get liquidated. Shout out to Tarogato says, do you expect 3 days down? I don't know. I don't really look at the market as far as how many days of downside. I would just look at it, I mean, regardless of how long it takes. We are pushing into resistance. Right? Let me just draw this out for you guys real quick. First opportunity is SFP, bearish divs at the highs, right? On the medium time frames, right? Could this pulls back? Sure. But again, you know, if this 8-hour green dot, 10-hour green dot continue to print, or the 10 and 12-hour start to print, right, you could push up a little bit higher. So it's a pretty big level of resistance. I always put a favor or a preference on the actual range high. But there are levels here to pay attention to. Where is it at? Right? 80.8K up to about 82K. And again, incorporating that high, I prefer, if we do continue up, I prefer to take out the high. If we don't, and we see confirmation into the key zone without taking out the high, like these are the next areas I am interested in for short is going to be area number 1. And again, including that high, right? You can kind of consider that the same zone. Whether we come up here and get the confirmations without taking out the high, or we have to take out the high, this is the general zone that I'll be looking at. And then, of course, if we don't get the push up, you technically have the bear divs here, which could push us back down into the range, right? And then once we lose this low, then we can look for the bigger push down towards about 72K, 71.9. So if I had to look for anything here, right, if I were going to take, was forced to take a trade here, I would have to favor a short position. We've already gotten a big move up, technically have bear divs into resistance above the value area high. The question is, are we going to get an earlier rejection, or are we going to have to creep up here first and then see a rejection? So 80,800 to 283-ish K at the high is the next big level. And then to the downside, of course, we already covered the local levels, which are kind of hard to look at because there's not a lot of price action, but just looking at this local range. If that 4-hour bear div is going to continue us down, lose the value area high, I'm looking at the POC, and then eventually the value area low. These are the two levels I would be looking for bounces at. Once we lose the low at 75.5, that's where I think you get the bigger drop down in the continuation. Shout out to Zach. Thank you for the super chat, bro. Says, smash the like. An ode to the GOAT. I'm one of the traders your lessons kept afloat. I came here to learn and started to earn. Thanks, Frankie, for every profitable turn. CandleMafia. Let's go. Shout out to Zach. Glad to hear you're still doing good. I assume, based off that chat, that your trades are still going very well, and that's what we do here. We teach you guys how to actually trade the charts, not just based off of emotion or narrative, but actually understand how the markets move here to call those high probability moves. I assume, Zach, you are holding your long from 58K because he is in the premium Discord, I believe. So hopefully that paid you out nicely, brother. Shout out to Terragato, said, Frankie, thanks. I was asking because it is a false move Monday, as they say, following 3 days down if MM in control. Shout out to Terragato. Yes. Yeah, I mean, if we do get the correction from here, it could be. I mean, whether it lasts 3 days or not, I don't know. But, I don't look at it through a timing perspective. I just look at it through a key level perspective. And, I mean, if you drag this resistance down to the daily MPOC, I don't really like to look at zones that big, but, daily MPOC plus, this is all resistance. So, there you go. That's what I'm looking at. I'm going to continue to hold my portion of my long position here, and we'll see what happens. And, of course, I will let you guys know as soon as we start seeing those signs of weakness. Shout out to Dave Digital, said the stink box. I think that is my sign to go ahead and wrap this up as chat is getting out of control. So shout out to the Mafia. Thank you guys so much for being here. I appreciate every single one of you. Smash that like button on your way out if you appreciate this content, if you took the longs at 58K, if you saw the videos where we looked at those daily bull divs and you're starting to understand how those volume profiles play out and they prove themselves once again. Smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications, do all that good stuff. I don't know, share it, do whatever, help push us out into that algorithm. And with all that being said, that's all the time I got for today's live stream. I'll see you guys tomorrow, and we'll see what we get. Are we going to pump or dump? Let me know in the chat on your way out. That's all I got. Hasta pasta. Frankie Candles out. Bing bong!
Here we go, at the top of the class on a roll, and it's time to run it up, yeah, maxed out, put the pedal to the floor, ayy, on the road, here we go, yeah, we winning by a landslide, never see me coming, I'm a landmine, yeah, I ain't taking orders in command, like, yeah, you about to see me on demand, like, on demand. If you ain't know, you about to understand. Yeah, I got the team by my side, right hand. Yeah, take it to a string, you ain't seen it like that. Yeah, and it's the dream, and we coming for the bag. Yeah, and we ain't never going back now. Future expedited, now we on the fast track now. They won't lend a hand, now they see us on the map now. It's time to act out. Here we go, at the top of the class on a roll, and it's time to run it up, yeah, maxed out, put the pedal to the floor, ayy, on the road, here we go, yeah, at the top of the class on a roll, ayy, and it's time to run it up, yeah, yeah, maxed out, put the pedal to the floor, yeah, on the road, here we go, here we go. Here we go, at the top of the class on a roll, and it's time to run it up, yeah, maxed out, put the pedal to the floor, ayy, on the road, here we go, yeah, at the top of the class on a roll, ayy, and it's time to run it up, yeah, maxed out,